So today I'm going to be having my first attempt at making biochar. It's something that I've looked at for a while now, and I want to add it into my homemade compost as just another way of improving my no-dig vegetable garden. So I'm going to use the most basic method that I've kind of researched, which is the cone pit method. So I'm going to dig a little pit in the ground here. Basically, from what I've read, you want to be like twice the width of the depth, so sort of 1 foot by 2 foot or 18 inches by 36, something like that. I'm going to do it fairly small, this first one, just in case it goes wrong. I've never done it before, so I don't want to waste too much wood, but I just want to have a little go, see how it goes, and then I can kind of expand it should I need to. So what I've got here is a load of dead standing wood that I had. This is my ash trees that have died from ash dieback. I cut 3 or 4 of them down. It's about 4 wheelbarrows heaped full of various sized wood, everything from sort of bigger bits like this, which I will split a little bit, perhaps the bigger ones into 4, all down to the twiggy stuff. So I'll start it with the smaller stuff and we'll build it up, and hopefully this will work, and if it does, I can then expand it, either digging a bigger pit or perhaps playing around with the 40-gallon drum method. And I just want to be able to make enough to add to my compost as I'm making it, and just obviously improve the soil. The biochar, it's kind of a sink for soil microbes and bacteria. It's got so much surface area. Apparently one sort of heaped teaspoon of biochar has got the surface area of like 3 or 4 football fields or something. It's amazing, really porous, so it helps with water retention, helps to sort of hold all those microbes in the soil, and it's a big part of Amazonian black earth or terra preta, I think it's called, in the Amazon, a man-made soil that is very productive. You know, have a Google, it's really interesting. So it's definitely something I want to do, and I just need to kind of find a method that works for me. So like I say, I'm going to give this cone pit method a go today and just see how it goes. So for capping off and sealing the burn, I've got this old bit of kitchen splashback, is stainless steel, just like brushed stainless steel from a kitchen. I found it in a skip. So basically I can't do the hole any bigger than that, but I think I'm going to be aiming for, I think looking at that, I'm probably going to go about 30 inches, a 30-inch circle, because that'll give me an overlap of about 3 or 4 inches each side, and I can shovel some soil on to seal it up. So basically I'm going to start my pit about here, because I'll be looking at that sort of size. So yeah, that's fine. It's far enough from the hedge. This hedge is coming out this year anyway, so I don't mind if it scorches it. I'm going to be removing it anyway. So I'm going to start, that'll be the centre of the pit right there. Now this ground is quite stony, so I'm not going to video the whole process of me digging the pit, because once I get about 10 inches down, it's really stony, so it's going to take a while. So I'll come back when I'm done. So this is the basic cone pit, a steep-sided pit, twice the width of the depth, and the idea being, I think, is that obviously you start the fire at the bottom. Every time the wood starts to ash up, starts to get some grey ash form on it, you cover that over with fresh wood and tamp it down a little bit to stop any oxygen getting to the lower coals. So I assume the idea of the cone really is that you can kind of overlap all the coals beneath and starve them of oxygen, and that's the basic idea, I think. So the finished size of the pit, once I'd done it, is about 32 inches wide, and if I lay that across, it should be about 16, yeah, just about 16 inches deep. So like I say, this seems to be the way to do it, twice the width of the depth, so whatever size you do it. Like I say, I could do a bigger one. If I had a bigger sheet of metal, I can get some old corrugated iron, perhaps if I do carry on with this method and want to increase it. But for now, for a little burn, this should produce a good bucketful or 2. I'm hoping it should, if it works. So I'm just going to start the fire with some straw in the bottom. and off of the dead ash trees, obviously I've got a lot of twiggy stuff, so it's all really dry, so that should be good to get it started. And by all accounts it's good to have all different sizes of wood, because as you go, this whole process relies on starving the wood of oxygen. So you put a new layer on, that will smoke quite a lot, and then the coals underneath will get starved of oxygen, and it will burn down all the sort of other things off, but leave all the carbon, because carbon needs oxygen to burn. So having different sizes of wood, you can kind of fill in all the gaps with smaller twiggy bits and that. And it's actually quite good for me, because obviously I do a lot of coppice in here, so if this works, rather than wood chipping all of my coppice, brash, leftover stuff from firewood harvesting and coppicing with ash and hazel trees, I can save a certain amount of that each year, just stack it up, let it dry through the winter, and then perhaps use it the following winter or any time through the summer when it's not too dry, to make biochar. So that's the plan. So got my lighter on me, yep. So let's get this going. Now the whole process may take 2 or 3 hours, I'm not really sure. So obviously I'm not going to video the whole thing, I'll just bring you in between and sort of show you what I'm doing basically. Would help if my straw wasn't ever so slightly damp. So for now, just to get it started, I'm just going to keep using smaller stuff. I'll come back when I add the first slightly bigger stuff. So I'm not going to put too bigger pieces on. Stuff like that, obviously, I shouldn't think on this sort of scale or size is going to burn all the way through. So I will probably put that. God, how harder than I thought. I'll probably cut this into 4. So they're just like mini logs. Would now provide a flat piece of wood to cut on. So that sort of size, I think, is what I'm going to try and do. This sort of size, you know, up to a couple of inches or so. So I'm going to start putting on the first few bits of bigger stuff now. Just sort of put a layer, not stack it up too much, just get a layer going. And when you stack it up, when you put some fresh wood on, it will smoke a bit. Then that should die down as it starts to heat up and really get going. So that'll do for the first layer. Very smoky now, but that should soon get going and be more flame. So after I've added a layer and it's starting to burn through, I just start to fill in the gaps with smaller stuff. The idea being just to keep the heat up, but to try and sort of block any bigger gaps and to try and starve the coals below of oxygen. Now I think I might have made a little bit of a mistake. I'm not sure, but on the second and third layers, I'm not sure if I added them a little bit too quickly. I was a little bit overzealous, and it seemed to smoulder for a really long time, and I thought I'd snuffled it right out, but it came back and it's now going really strongly again. So this is what I'm doing. I'm putting bigger ones followed by a layer of smaller ones, just to starve it of oxygen, and obviously that'll smoke for 5 or 10 minutes until the heat really builds up and it'll start to flame again. So the smoke has pretty much died down now. This is just about 5 minutes since putting the smaller stuff on. The smaller stuff is ashing up, as you can see, quicker than the big stuff, and I know that doing this method I am going to get a certain amount of potash within it, but I'll sieve that out anyway, so that I'm just left with the biochar. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to give this a bit of time to ash up all the bigger stuff a bit, and then I'm going to add this last layer that I've got ready and chopped up, varying different sizes, split ones, rounds, smalls, bigs, and I'm going to put as even a layer as I can over the top, and that should be the last layer then, because I need to get the tin over it. I don't want it to come out of the ground so the tin's bowing. I want to be able to seal it properly, seal it completely round, so that it just starves it of oxygen and it can then just cook for the next few hours and overnight, and I'll come back tomorrow and see what we got. But that is really kicking out some heat now. It's lovely. It was a freezing cold night last night, -4 down here on my temperature gauges, really frosty this morning, so it's actually a perfect day to have it nice and still, nice and bright, and a bit chilly. So at least half of it is ashed up quite well now. So I'm going to put the next layer on. I'm going to put a good layer on this time because it has dropped a little bit, but I think this is going to be the last layer. And what I'm tending to do is I'll put them that way one time and then that way the other time, just so they crisscross over a bit. Ooh, smoky. Put a few of these smaller bits on top. Just keep a pair of loppers for anything that I can't snap, and just sort of put them between the logs. So I'm going to put a bit of an extra thick layer, seeing as this is the last one, just fill in any gaps. I'm thinking that'll probably about do it, I reckon. So what I'm going to do now is just wait for the heat to build up and for the flames to come through. Wait till it's about 50% ashed over the top, and then I'll come back and I'll cover it and seal it with soil and just keep my fingers crossed. So just one thing that I think I forgot to mention was, after I've added a layer, usually once the flames are coming through and they're starting to burn down a bit, is I've just been tapping the logs down, just giving just a gentle tap. You don't want to smash the fire about too much, but just tap them down, make sure they're firmly down. And that just stops any big air gaps where oxygen could get in and turn the coals that you want. It will turn them to ash if you get the oxygen in there. So just give it a gentle tamp down, and that just helps to make sure there's no big gaps in the bottom. Right, so I did actually change my mind after that last quite thick layer got going. It did drop a little bit, and I decided to just chop up the last of the slightly smaller stuff to cap it off with. Now, one thing I have realised is I was struggling to get the fire right out to the sides of the pit, so obviously I've done a pit that is 32 inches wide by 16 deep, which is kind of what I had read and heard online. I think I need to make it slightly deeper, maybe 5 or 6 inches deeper, so that the sides aren't quite so wide cone, more of a tighter, narrow cone. I think the heat will get out to the sides easier that way. So for the next burn, that's what I'll do. But the reason I put all this small stuff on top was just to get it out to the sides, and it has worked. It's now out to the sides. It's just this side here at the front here is the side that is slightly behind. So I might find I have a few bits that aren't burned through, but that's fine, they can stay in for the next burn. So I'm just waiting, this is charring up. I'm just going to wait for it to drop down to a point where it's level enough to get the sheet on. I'm just knocking it down, as I say, with a spade, just to get it nice and tightly packed, and then we'll get the sheet on and get it sealed up then, and we'll check it tomorrow. So I've just given it a knock down with the spade. That's why it's smoking a little bit. There are a few ends, as you can see around the edge, which aren't quite burned through. That's where the smoke's coming from mainly. But I think, you know, I'm not 100%, like I say, it's my first time I've done it, but I think I'm about ready now to put the cover on. It's level enough with the ground, I can get the cover flat on there. I just don't, it's charring up quite a lot of white ash on top. I just don't want to lose it, so I'd rather end up with a few unburnt bits than lose too much of it, turn into ash. So I'll set the camera up and I will get the cover on now. So I'm going to put the cover on now. Like I say, I'd rather end up with a few of these top bits having to go in the second burn, because all these smaller bits are really ashing up now, and I just don't want to lose them. It's a learning process, you know. This is my first burn. If I was doing the water quench method, where you just tip loads of water in and fill it all up, I perhaps would leave it a little bit longer till these had broken up. But I'm going to seal it in, and that will stay, you know, at hundreds and hundreds of degrees for hours. So it should cook these bits anyway, I'm hoping. So let's get the cover on. That's a perfect fit. I'm just going to use the soil that I dug out. And seal it all the way around. So hopefully there'll be no little gaps where air can get in. This should work, because I've seen people just throw corrugated iron over the top on some videos and not even put soil over it, and it seems to work. So I might be being a little bit of overkill here, but we'll see. Right, so tiny bit of smoke permeating through, but hopefully that'll do. I might just put a little bit more around that side. Okay, so I'm going to call that done. Could come and cook me dinner on there now. But yeah, so like I say, I'm going to see how much I get from this. I'm not expecting to get much. I'm hoping to get one of my 20-litre buckets full. I hopefully should get that. I could always increase the size of the cone, but this is the only piece of sheet steel that I've got. So what I could do, like I say, I'll make it a bit deeper, that will get a bit more in. I could probably make it a couple of 3 inches wider, should I want to. But I'll see how this method works. And I may try the 40-gallon drum method as well. But for my first burn, this was probably the simplest way. But I'll leave it now. We're about 3 o'clock. The whole process to this point has taken 3 hours. So this is quite a good size to do, really. It doesn't take up the whole day. So yeah, pretty good size to do. I'll leave it a good 24 hours. If that is still warm in 24 hours, then I won't. I'll leave it till the next day. But I'm hoping to come back tomorrow and uncover it and see what we got. So we'll see then. Keep your fingers crossed. Right, so it's been 2 days because it was still warm yesterday. I could still feel a bit of warmth there, so I didn't want to risk opening it and having it catch. I could obviously quench it with water, but I want to see how it sounds pouring it from one bucket to another. If you've done it right, it should sound like glass. So I'm trying to keep it dry so I can see if it makes the right sound. Let's have a look, see what we got. Okay, that's quite a bit fuller than I was expecting. I thought that would have dropped more than that. So these bits on top haven't done all the way through, I don't think. No, I can't break that. So those can go in the next burn. I kind of expected that. I am also expecting some unfinished bits, perhaps halfway down, because like I said, I think I put some layers on a little bit too quickly. So that's not quite done either. So there might be a few bits near this top, but the rest of it looks, I mean, that looks okay. It's kind of sounding a bit glass-like just doing that. So that looks pretty good. These bits haven't quite broken up, so I'll have a sort through it, but what I'll do is I'll dig it out into buckets and just see what we've got. I've got my trugs here. I have got some water just in case there's anything hot. I don't know how long it could possibly stay hot for, but right at the bottom there might be some coals or something. It's quite dusty, but let's have a look at some of these bits in the middle. Oh no, see, that's quite a thick bit, but that's done. That's fine. What I will do is screen this through a sieve, and I'll crush any big bits with a hammer. See, there's a bit that isn't finished. Some of it is done, but that was obviously on the side, so that can all go in the next burn. Another bit that was on the side, so that's fine. These can all go in the next burn, but there's actually quite a bit there. That's more than I was thinking, to be honest. That breaks up really easily. That's good. I'm really happy with that. Trying to see the sound. They say it should sound like glass, and it sort of does. So I'm hoping it's all right. I mean, that's pretty much, no, not quite. Pretty much all the way through. Just slight little bit that isn't done. But I'll screen it to perhaps sort of 1/2 inch. I don't want anything too big in my beds. So it seems to have broken down fairly small. I mean, that's a sort of size of it, but I'll probably crush it down a little bit smaller than that. But
It's just, see how easy it breaks up. It's still got a bit of a sort of hardness to some bits, but like I say, I think I did add wood a little bit too fast lower down, but you know, it's breaking up pretty easily. I can crush it with my fingers, so pretty happy with that. And there's actually quite a lot more than I thought. I mean, that's one trug. I don't know how many litres these trugs are actually. They're probably 20-25 litres, because my black buckets are 20 litres and they're a bit bigger than those. So it doesn't look like that there's too much big stuff at the bottom, which is what I was thinking. Let's just get my scoop. There's one big bit from the bottom, but it's actually cooked right through, look. So that's pretty good. Actually, this pit hasn't done anywhere near as bad as I thought. Like I said, I was expecting a bucket or two at most. I reckon I might have 3 or 4 of these bigger buckets. Well, I'm gonna have to go and get another bucket. I'll be back in a minute. So I've ended up with 2 full green trugs and about 1/3 of this bigger black one. So I mean, in total, I think they've got to be 30 litre trugs. So I've probably ended up with 70 or 80 litres of biochar. It might not be the best. There's probably going to be a few bits in there which haven't quite cooked. Like I said, I don't think it was quite hot enough in the bottom, but they have broken down. So hopefully it's fine. But what I'm going to do is screen them through perhaps like a 1/2 inch sieve, or 1 inch, maybe 1/2 inch, and then I'll put them in a trug like 1 inch or 2 at a time, and just use a stake or like a fence post just to bang them a little bit and just crush them down, and then sieve them again, and I'll try and get a particle size sort of like that. So it just adds to the soil, but it's nothing too big that's going to really sort of get in my way when I'm seed sowing and stuff. So I don't want anything too big, but that seems to have worked quite well. I'm quite happy with that. I think I will slightly deepen this pit just by 5 or 6 inches, like I said, because I did struggle to get the fire right out to the sides. So if I leave the width as it is, but I deepen it just a little bit, then rather than being slightly sort of a cone shape like that, it can be a bit tighter, and I think I'll be able to get the fire up better then. So just 4, 5, 6 inches maybe, something like that. But this method seems to work quite well, and it's got me more than I thought actually. So what I'm going to do with this is I will just add it direct to my compost, but I'm also going to inoculate some. I'll brew like a worm tea with my worm castings, and I'll bubble it up with the charcoal and my air bubblers to inoculate the charcoal, so that I can start putting it on straight on the beds when I'm planting and stuff. When beds are clear, I'll put a certain amount on. It's going to take me a while to get any sort of percentage. I make between 12 and 16 cubic meters of compost a year, so I don't ever think I'm going to get to a point where I can do like 10 or 20%, which I think you can do up to about 20%. No more than that is recommended. I think I might struggle to do more than 1 or 2%, but I will start saving my tree brash from coppicing and things like that, and that would be smaller stuff, so it would probably make it easier and quicker to do, because it would be quicker burning stuff. And I think the important thing to do with smaller stuff is to tamp it down just gently, between every time you throw some on, because that blocks the oxygen from the coals below. I think that's the idea with this cone, like I say, is to put a layer on that covers the coals below it and keep it just gently tamped, and that stops any air gaps that allows the oxygen in. You want to kind of snuffle those coals beneath the fire. That's how you've got to kind of think of it, I think. So like I say, first attempt, and I'm pretty happy with that. If anyone's got any pointers, obviously this is my first attempt. Any pointers, please put in the comments below. Anything I can do to make it perhaps more efficient or something. But like I say, I think I'm going to use smaller stuff going forwards. Anytime I've got these big logs, I'll split them down maybe into 6s, so it's almost like big kindling. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I might do another biochar video, perhaps trying a different method. I might try the 40-gallon drum next time, or I might do a little video of my second burner, just see how that goes. I won't explain it in such detail perhaps, but you know, it's an interesting thing, I think. But anyway, guys, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are enjoying the videos and my channel, please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time, guys. Take it easy.